This one comes from a graveyard shift at a gas station, and I think you guys are going to really like it. So let us go ahead and dive into this story that was sent in by one of our listeners. I used to work the graveyard shift at a gas station when I was about 18 years old. For the most part, everything was pretty uneventful, except for the usual drunk customers at 2 a.m. and the occasional fight that would break out because some idiot thought they could pay with a credit card that had no money in it. But there was one incident that has stuck with me to this day. It was about 3 a.m. and I was closing up shop for the night. All the trash cans were taken out to the dumpster. The parking lot was empty. The inside of the store was clean. The only sounds were the hum of the fridge and the constant whine of the wind as it blew through the open window. I was just finishing up my paperwork when I heard the bell above the door chime. I looked up to see a man standing in the entryway. He was tall and thin with dirty blonde hair that hung just past his shoulders. He was wearing a long-sleeve button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, a pair of jeans and work boots. He didn't look dangerous, but there was something about him that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I greeted him with a smile and asked if he needed anything. "Yeah, I need some help," he replied. His voice was raspy and seemed to echo in the mostly empty store. "What seems to be the problem?" I asked. "I have a flat tire, and I need someone to hold the flashlight for me while I change the tire," he said. "No problem," I replied. "Which tire is it? I'll grab this stuff for you." "It's the front left tire. It's right outside by the dumpster," he said. "Okay, I'll be right back," I told him. As I turned to grab the tools, I couldn't help but notice how the light from the ceiling fixture made his face look even more pale than usual. It was kind of sickly looking. I shook my head, trying to get rid of the uneasy feeling that was starting to creep up on me. There was no reason for me to be scared. This was just a guy who needed some help changing a tire. Still, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread as I walked toward the door. As I stepped outside, I could see the man standing next to the flat tire. The parking lot was still empty, and the streetlights cast long, eerie shadows across the asphalt. I grabbed the flashlight and walked over to the car. "Thanks," the man said, reaching out a hand to take the flashlight. His fingers were long and slender, almost like they were from another planet. They weren't dirty or greasy, which was surprising considering that he had just come from changing a tire. "You sure you don't need any other help? Like maybe some jumper cables, or maybe some water?" I asked. "Nope, I'm all set. Thanks for your help," he replied. "Sure, no problem." As I turned to leave, I couldn't help but glance back at the man. He was kneeling down next to the tire, and for a moment, our eyes met. His face was inches away from mine, and I could see the raspy breath coming from his nostrils. His lips were pulled back in what I thought was a smile, but it wasn't. It was more like a snarl. His teeth were long and sharp, like the fangs of a snake. Before I could react, he lunged forward, and I stumbled back in surprise. He grabbed onto my shirt and pulled me toward him. "Help me," he hissed, his voice like gravel grinding against concrete. Panic surged through me, and I tried to pull away, but his grip was like iron. His fingernails dug into my skin, leaving deep scratches that burned with pain. I screamed, the sound echoing across the empty parking lot. My heart pounded in my chest, and my mind raced, trying to figure out what to do. I thrashed around, trying to break free from his grasp, but his hold on me was relentless. I felt trapped, helpless, and a deep sense of fear washed over me. I knew I had to do something, anything to get away from him. But in that moment of panic, I wasn't sure what that something was. Then, just as suddenly as he had attacked me, the man released me, stumbling backward with a low growl. He backed away from me slowly, keeping his eyes fixed on me. The flashlight slipped from his grasp and clattered to the ground, sending a beam of light dancing across the parking lot. I took advantage of his distraction and ran. I didn't know where I was going, but I just kept running. Adrenaline surged through my veins, fueling my flight. I didn't dare look back, not wanting to see the crazed look in his eyes, not wanting to know if he was pursuing me. I ran blindly, my lungs burning, my legs pumping, my feet pounding the pavement. The sound of my own breathing echoed in my ears, loud and ragged. Finally, I stumbled to a stop, my body trembling, my heart hammering against my ribs. I was out of breath, my lungs on fire. I stood there for a moment, trying to catch my breath, trying to calm the wild beating of my heart. Then, when I finally dared to turn back, the man was gone. The parking lot was empty, and the only sound was the wind whistling through the trees. I looked around frantically, searching for him, for any sign of him, but he had vanished, leaving me alone in the darkness. I don't want to scare you off, but I'm getting goosebumps right now. That is absolutely terrifying. And now I'm worried that maybe we should not go to gas stations at night ever again. I wish that I had some sort of explanation for what happened. Maybe a deranged customer, a psycho on drugs, a serial killer. But the thing is, no matter what I try to tell myself, none of those explanations make sense. Because what person in their right mind would attack a gas station worker for no reason whatsoever? Not to mention, this person was super strong, like inhumanly strong. I've never been able to forget that encounter, and it continues to haunt me to this day. Years have passed, but the memory of that night remains fresh in my mind. The image of his crazed eyes, the feel of his strong grip, the sound of his raspy voice, it all comes back to me in vivid detail. It's like it was yesterday. I can't shake the feeling that he's out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his next victim. And sometimes I wonder if he's still out there, hunting, searching for his next unsuspecting target. I don't know. This story is crazy. I think it is safe to say that most of us have been to a gas station at night. Usually it's nothing, right? You go in, you get your snacks, maybe use the restroom, and then you fill up your gas and you head on your merry way. But after hearing this story, I think it is safe to say that we might be a little bit more on alert if we have to go to a gas station in the middle of the night. I don't know. What about you? Does this story freak you out a little bit? Let me know in the comments below. And another thing that freaks me out is when I wake up in the middle of the night and I start thinking about all of the creepy things that have happened in my life. And one of the worst things about that is if you wake up in the middle of the night and you go back to sleep, you end up overthinking absolutely everything. And sometimes I even dwell on things that I have no control over. Like for example, did I lock the front door? Did I pay that bill? Did I send that message? Sometimes it's hard to know whether or not you should worry about things. And if you're like me, and you find yourself constantly worrying about these kinds of things, then this next product might be for you. And that product is called Calm, is an app that helps you get back to sleep if you happen to wake up in the middle of the night. It's also a great tool to manage anxiety and stress throughout the day. Headspace guides you through a variety of meditations and mindfulness exercises that help you calm your mind and focus on the present moment. I love using Headspace before bed because it helps me relax and distress from the day, and it makes it much easier for me to fall asleep. And if I happen to wake up in the middle of the night, I can open up the app and use their quick little meditations to help me get back to sleep without dwelling on the things that I have no control over. If you'd like to try Headspace, so go ahead and click that link and check them out today. That's all I have for you. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.